Mute. Bonjour Laurence.
Bonjour, ça va bien?
Ça va très bien. Caroline Winter, enchantée. Donc moi, je serai en back-office sur deux Zoom en même temps, deux tracks de Zoom en même temps. Juste qu'on se dise bien, normalement, le panel commence à 9h30. En réalité, c'est sur l'autre partie que ça va commencer en retard. Donc, nous, on est bien, on est dans les temps. Mais à 9h30 pile, les gens vont normalement commencer à se connecter. Donc, du coup, on sera for everybody to hear. OK.
Parfait. Marc,
allô,
je ne sais
Marc.
pas pourquoi on ne le voit pas.
Alors, Marc. Alors, il faut que je les accepte normalement, non? Attends, Léa, il faut que je les accepte là? Non, normalement, il n'y a pas besoin.
Pas
eu besoin de l'accepter, Laurence. Je n'ai pas les droits de présenter. C'est qui? Marc Lijour. Comment ça me présenter? Qu'un speaker là, mais Marc il est où? Oui, Marc il n'est pas à l'écran, c'est pas un speaker. Si, c'est un speaker, Marc. Il faut qu'il se connecte en tant que speaker. Marc, si tu nous entends, il faut que tu te connectes en tant que speaker. Est-ce que tu avais une configuration différente? Est-ce qu'il est rentré dans le truc? Non, là, c'est... Alors, attends, je vais lui renvoyer le lien. Ouais. Marc, voilà, il a le lien. Ah, c'est bon. C'est celui-là? Bah, normalement, oui. Alors, attends, panel.
Ludovic, je ne sais pas aussi s'il est là.
16074. Ouais, c'est ça. C'est celui-ci. On ne voit pas apparaître à l'écran. Je sors et je rentre. Ouais, ok. Faut que tu te connectes en tant que speaker, Marc. Si tu... il est peut-être parti là maintenant.
Puis Ludovic est aussi en tant qu'attendees.
Oui, il est mis en tant qu'attendees aussi, Ludovic. Allow to talk. Bon, on va peut-être faire ça. Voilà. Et puis on va faire pareil avec Marc. Voilà, parfait. Ça y est.
Allô.
Bonjour à tous, Ludovic. On ne te voit pas.
Oui, bonjour.
On ne t'entend pas. Bonjour, Ludovic.
Bonjour. On a le micro, mais on n'a pas la caméra. Enfin, je n'ai pas la caméra.
Ouais. Moi non plus.
Je n'ai pas non plus les outils pour présenter. Est-ce que vous mettre comme host ou co-host?
Promote to panéliste, je peux faire ça?
C'est ça, vas-y.
On va voir si ça marche. Voilà, et Ludovic, attention, c'est parti.
Ok, parfait.
Ça y est, on vous voit.
Ça y est.
Normalement, tu dois pouvoir faire share screen en bas.
Ouais.
Marc.
Et tu m'entends?
Et je t'entends très bien et on est live du coup. C'est parti.
Bonjour à tous, bienvenue à notre panel, The Thriving Ecosystem in Canada. Welcome everyone. Today we have an exciting panel. We're going to talk about how to grow your business in Canada. We're going to talk about context. We're going to talk about the funding opportunities and support in Canada. Let me present ourselves. So I'm Marc. I'm working from ICTC. We are not-for-profit with a mission to help Canadians and everyone to succeed in the digital economy. We're helping people get jobs. We're helping companies succeed in the digital economy. I have a background from the private sector at Cisco. I work for Consensus, a venture production studio dedicated to the blockchain. And before that, I was working with the governments. And let me introduce you to the next person, Laurence. A few words about you.
Thank you, Marc. Hi, everyone. So my name is Laurence. I'm Director of Business Strategy and Development at Aiming. For people who might not be aware of who Aiming is, so we're a global consulting firm specialized in government funding. So my role today will really be to kind of showcase what's available in Canada in terms of government funding. I've been in consulting for the past 13 years. Prior to that, I was an R&D director in the agri-food sector. So always been involved in innovation, cost consulting, cost reduction, and government funding throughout the years.
Merci, Laurence.
Ludovic.
Yes, hi everyone. So my name is Ludovic André. I'm managing the investment, venture capital investments for Crédit Mutuel Equity, based in Montreal with an office in Toronto. And I won't say more because I just have a slide later on to describe a bit on what we do.
Merci, Ludovic. So let's get started then. I'm going to give you a little bit of an update, a little bit of some context about Canada. So Canada is a country where the population is largely very well educated. The standard of living is really high, and the cost of talent is very low, which has made Canada a preferred place for large American companies, other companies to settle in Canada. So we have the big ones. We have the Google, the Microsoft, the Cisco's, and the IBMs and everything. And Amazon just opened a new center for Amazon Web Services in Calgary. And we also have the startups and the scale-ups, a very vibrant ecosystem here across Canada. At ICTC, we do labor market reports. One of the recent reports, we looked at the data from January 2020 to May 2021. The share of the digital economy is growing. If we look at employment, the employment in the digital economy are 12% above the pre-pandemic level. So vibrant recovery, and you could see on the diagram on the right a little bit a bird's eye view. While the average of the overall economy is still 3% below. And that's on the employment level, but the story is the same in other measures. So in Canada, we have 6 major innovation areas that we highlighted: clean tech, advanced manufacturing, agri-food and food tech, lots of investment right now in that sector, interactive digital media, health and biotech, and clean resources. So that means there is a lot of interest for entrepreneurs, a lot of qualified talent, a lot of funding from governments, and so forth. We have a lot of data, so of course I don't have enough time to go through everything, but I will direct you to our publications. We have a number of studies that have been funded by Invest in Canada that describe different sectors in great detail. The largest one that we published is about the creative technology sector in BC. It's about 100 pages of a very, very detailed description of what's going on in that industry. On the eTalent website, we have data visualizations. You can find information. You can drill down by cities, by province, see a little bit what jobs are available, the salary, how the employment is moving up and down, the skills required, and so forth. And we have a number of programs also that you can browse from there. The WIL, the Work Integrated Learning Program, is a program where we can reimburse businesses 75% of the wages when they hire students. So we have exciting government programs as well as we are running. Another program we are running in Alberta is a program to help the small and medium-sized businesses to attract, hire, and retain the digital talent that they need to succeed. Large companies are doing fairly well, but Canada is 98%, 99%, depending what you're looking at. It's in the largest majority, it's but really small businesses like startups and others. And before I pass it to Ludovic for the VC view, I'd like to invite you to a conference we're attending. 3,000 people is going to be online, and it's going to be really Canadian-centric, but we have a few people from abroad, from the European Commission, for example, policymakers, where we're going to talk about the future of Canada, what kind of policy and programs we need for the next 10 years. So thanks for that. The website and the slides will be shared after, and I pass it to the government funding landscape.
Thank you, Marc.
It's about aiming. Laurence, it's yours.
My pleasure. So again, just briefly, we are at Aiming. We're a global company. We're in 15 countries. So we're located in North America, in Canada, and in the US, but as well in many countries in Europe. We're a French headquartered company, and we've been in business in Canada since 35 years with over 20,000 clients and 35 years of success. We've secured quite a bit of funding for a client, and this is due to truly understanding the government landscape in Canada, which is thriving, actually. So Marc, if you can go to the next slide. Now what we're going to really focus on is explaining to you the landscape in Canada in terms of non-dilutive funding. So contribution from the government entity, be it at the federal or at the provincial level, to help grow businesses in Canada, to help improve economy, R&D, innovation, create employment. So in terms of non-dilutive funding, there's two streams again. The first one, which is direct funding, which is typically called government grants or government loans. These type of direct funding are really there to help company at the beginning of specific projects. So you're not looking to get money back for projects that you've already done. It's really focusing on your projects for the next 12 to 18 months typically. And the goal of government grants is really to help grow businesses in Canada. Grants are extremely competitive, to note, so it's often a first come, first serve basis. This is why it's very important to have the best application put forward so that you are selected to receive these typically non-refundable funding when we're talking about grants. When we look now at indirect funding is typically in R&D as well as e-business, as well as multimedia. These are tax credits. Tax credits work differently. So we look at what a company has done in the past year typically, and then we prepare the application to make sure that we can demonstrate that you've contributed towards the goal of either advancing science, contributing to the e-business landscape, or having a multimedia production or tax credit. The government criteria are quite strict. These programs are frequently audited by the government, but if you're well prepared and aware of what the rules and guidelines are, it's a very good government incentive. It's one of the best that we have in Canada. And therefore, it's truly something to look for if you're interested in setting up in Canada, that's for sure. To go back to government grants, what I put there are the main funding areas, because often people think, yes, there's going to be government grants for R&D, but to understand there's also government incentive, as Marc was mentioning, for hiring, for example, for training, for capital purchases. So for programs, for investments from companies that are going to really help to increase productivity in manufacturing, for example. So for the purchase of equipment, the purchase of and install of new ERP, CRM system, for example, as well as business growth. When organizations are set up in Canada and they want to look to expand and export towards other markets, such as maybe the US, there's government grant to support companies going abroad and showcasing the knowledge and the work that's done in Canada. So thousands of grants available. It's important to be aware that they exist and to be applying to them before you start spending on a specific project. And now if we go maybe a bit more in detail into what is the largest tax credit that we have in Canada, which is the SR&ED tax credit. That tax credit allocates over $3 billion per year to companies in Canada. It's important to understand the criteria of that program. Those programs are made to truly showcase innovative, attempting to resolve technological uncertainty and challenges within the realm of an R&D project, which is tailored to truly increase or attempt to increase the company technological knowledge. Therefore, they're going to be more productive, and typically they're going to succeed better in Canada and abroad as well. I put at the bottom, just to give you an idea, the type of return rates that you can get when you have projects that are eligible for the SR&ED tax credit. So the most interesting category is for sure the wages. So you're going to have return rates between 23 to 73%. As you can see, this is a very large gap, but it's important to understand that this is based on, is it a company that's foreign owned? Is it a company that's Canadian control? What is the capital, the total capital of the company in Canada? And therefore the rates will move based on those answers. Other activities that are going to be eligible to receive a tax credit are engaging subcontractors in Canada, as well as material consumed. So again, as a last little word, it's important to know Canada is one of the most vibrant landscape for non-dilutive funding. It's important to be aware of what's out there when maybe you're thinking of investing or setting up a company in Canada, because these incentives are going to be at the forefront of where you decide to establish yourself in terms of province in Canada as well. So thank you for listening, and handing it over to Ludovic.
Thank you, Laurence. Thank you, Marc. Hi, everyone. So I start just briefly on a snapshot on who we are, what we do. So we currently have an asset of $200 million under management, coming from Crédit Mutuel in France. So that makes us a bit specific because we have only one single LP. So we are more an evergreen type of VC firm based in Montreal, office in Toronto. We've been investing mainly from Series A to Series C, check size from 1 to 20 million. Two main verticals, ICT on one side and health tech on the other side. 70 to 75% investments in Canada and the rest in the US. I think what's interesting maybe for the audience here is that we've been active in Canada since 2013, and we came from France. So actually Canada was our first international subsidiary on the investment arm of Crédit Mutuel. So I would say we went through the journey of crossing the Atlantic and setting up from scratch a business on this side and specifically in Canada. So we understand, I think, what entrepreneurs may go through when they think about having a footprint either in Canada or the US. Our track record, recent track record includes, for instance, Edison Software, company based in San Francisco, a data analytics platform that was acquired by Yipit. We also had a recent IPO on the TSX, Q4, B2B SaaS software company. And a few years ago, we also had an interesting exit with Microsoft that acquired Maluba in the AI and NLP space. And again, backed by one single LP, Crédit Mutuel Equity. So that's a snapshot. Next slide, very quickly. We've been investing across, as you can see, across Canada, a bit west coast of the US. And since 2013, we've invested in 20 companies. So just so you have an idea of what we do, who we are. And so thank you, Laurence. I think I cannot agree more on how Canada is a great place for non-dilutive financing. Next slide, please, Marc. So I'm going to talk more about venture capital in Canada. So I took those data from the latest report of the Canadian Venture Capital Association. The key takeaway is actually this year is the strongest year of VC investments on record in Canada, close to $12 billion, almost in 600 deals, a bit less. And what's interesting is we see more and more foreign investments, mainly from the US, investing in Canada. I think that's an interesting signal here. And you can see also the heat map on the venture capital in Canada. And what stands out is, as you can see, Toronto, or let's say Ontario, is the place where you have the most invested dollars in the country, followed by Montreal in Quebec, and then Vancouver, British Columbia, West Coast. So next slide, maybe, please, Marc. And I think what's interesting and for the audience to understand is the venture capital in Canada compared to the US is fairly young, in fact. And when we arrived 10 years ago, I would say it has nothing to do with what is the landscape today. I think Canada has done a tremendous work, both on the entrepreneurial and tech landscape, but also on the VC side. And the industry, if I may say, this industry has gone through a massive transformation, and we've seen year over year an increase in dollar amounts, number of deals, and 2021 is actually quite a demonstration of this I would say very vibrant VC industry. However, I may say that even though you can see some mega deals where you hit $50 million plus dollars, which is significant for Canada. The main majority of the deals are still made in the, as you can see on the right side of the slide, with tickets from 1 million to 20 million. That's really, again, where the action takes place, I would say, in Canada. The tickets are rising, but still that's where you have the most of the deals. Next slide, maybe, Marc. Yeah, one word. So where the dollars are going. So as you can see, there is a clear trend in the ICT, and again, for the past 10 years that I've been here, I could say that it's quite a constant trend. ICT is gathering most of the dollars, following by life science, even though for those entrepreneurs are more in the health tech space, there's still very strong ecosystem, mainly in Montreal and Toronto on the health tech side. And I think what's also very interesting from my perspective is, again, 10 years ago, there were not that many big exits, I would say, or IPOs, and the industry again has proven that its capability to trigger more very interesting M&A transaction. I think this year is going to be a very interesting year. I think we accumulate more than 30 M&A already. And on the IPO front, even though it's it's not as big, of course, as in the US and with the NASDAQ and so on, but actually we've seen very interesting IPOs this year, even last year on the TSX. So that's picking up, and I think that's very important because in the end, it's like success brings more success. So at least as we see being on this territory for 10 years now, quite impressed with what we've seen. Mark, I think I have another slide. Yeah, I thought I would try to summarize, because I imagine the audience, we have many probably French entrepreneurs that are thinking or in the execution mode of crossing the Atlantic, and whether it is Canada, the US, always a question that we hear from French entrepreneurs. So I think for us, and Marc really summarized that very well. I think the access to talents in, I would say, in a more affordable manner is a real asset for entrepreneurs coming to Canada. And the overall tech and entrepreneurial ecosystem is fairly strong from what we see. And it has been recognized by major companies like Amazon, Facebook, and Microsoft. When they acquired one of our portfolio companies in Montreal, it was really to set up their NLP AI R&D center in Montreal. So that's a reality. And we have a French tech presence in Montreal and Toronto. So again, that's very interesting, I think. The other thing is, as Laurence mentioned, access to government support is quite attractive as well. For, again, coming from France, we used to have all those tax credits and other subsidies, the support of BPI. Well, you won't be totally, it's not going to be a total change when you come to Canada, because you can see all those tax credits, government support, and BDC plays a similar role of BPI. Is also a strong supporter of startup and tech companies across Canada. So that's also, for me, a strong asset for Canada. The last one, and I think it's actually at the heart of our investment thesis as a VC coming from France, you can do a lot in Canada, but also a lot from Canada to the US. And in our case, we have this Canadian platform with Montreal, Toronto office, and we're able to invest West Coast of the US, or basically anywhere in the US. I think COVID has helped a lot also in doing many things remotely. But that's something to consider as an entrepreneur. I think when you're able to set up a base in Canada, you can still tackle the US market. And I think that makes Canada very attractive. So thank you very much all, and happy to answer any question afterwards.
Yeah, thank you. Merci, Laurence, Ludovic. So we wanted to leave enough time also for the panel and questions. I'm going to stop sharing, but you can add your questions in the chat, and sure, Caroline, somebody here will help us. I have a couple of questions to get things started, and I'll throw it to either you, Laurence or Ludovic. To see, like right now, end of the year. Even though you started to answer a little bit, Ludovic, on that, but where do you see the activity in terms of sector of the economy at this point, as of today?
So from my perspective, and it would not be a surprise for the audience, but I would say maybe 70% of the deal we see in Canada are somehow related to data management, data analytics. We see more and more projects on transparency, bringing more protection on privacy on the data, making more like ethical also. As you know, Joshua Benjo in Montreal was won the Turing Prize. He's really into that, making AI more transparent and so on. So that's an area that I think is interesting. I think blockchain is also very strong, especially in Toronto. So not talking necessarily about crypto space, but that's a reality. I think we have very strong know-how in Canada on this front. And lastly, because we are active also on the health tech piece, and we see also very interesting projects, mostly on our side, mostly devices. And we see, again, this overlap where you have this data play, digital health, I would say, but more, again, related to how do we make a case on the health market with the data piece. So that's what I could say.
There is a question here for you, Ludovic, actually. Are there any specificity for Canadian VCs compared to US VCs that you should be aware of?
So I would say that it's on the way to go through a deal and execute a deal. It's really pretty much the same, same terms. Pace of execution. I think I left France now for some time. So when I used to be in France, processes were maybe slower than what I can see here. Here it's pretty fast paced. So the moment you have a term sheet on the table, we've seen deals closing in 30 days. So that's fairly fast. I think the main difference I would see, two things. The ticket size, smaller probably than in the US, especially on the early rounds. So when you talk about pre-seed, seed, even Series A, check size, again, increasing slowly but surely in Canada, but still less, I think, from what we can see in the US. And even though I should not say that, but valuation, I think valuation still rising, but I think still with a discount from what we can see in the US. So that's maybe what I can say very quickly.
Yeah, I can see for having been in Toronto for 20 years, I can see in the last 10 years, it's really the landscape really changed. There used to be very little money. Now American money started to come in. New players, also owners in Toronto played a very leading role. So this is good. So in Toronto, to talk a little bit about the ecosystem as well, and we stress that. I mean, there's a lot of French people and francophones and francophiles in Canada. We have a very good network. In Toronto, we have more recently opened the French Tech de Toronto, which Ludovic is also part of, and a lot of people here, including in the chat. We have a French Chamber of Commerce in Toronto that's also fairly new, just a couple of years, so vibrant activity. And maybe I'll let Laurence say a very quick few words also, and there's a question for you after about the Montreal ecosystem, which is way more established, Laurence.
I just didn't see the question.
I can give you the question, and you can tackle the Montreal ecosystem and the questions. We have 3 minutes left.
Okay,
so the question is like, are there multiple public funding opportunities at the federal and provincial level? It's pretty hard to figure out.
There's thousands of public funding opportunities in Canada, because you're going to have them at the federal level, that's for sure, based on the core competencies of the federal government and which areas they wish to push. And then you're going to have provincial incentives as well in terms of grant funding, and municipal as well. So when you go to cities, like bigger cities, such as Montreal, Toronto, you're going to have an ecosystem as well that is going to be there to help you establish your company in those cities, right? So there's going to be a little bit of a competition if you want to establish yourself in Canada as to looking where is the best non-dilutive funding, and which city, which province is willing to maybe step up a little bit to see where you want to establish yourself. And if we talk a little bit about the landscape in Quebec, there's a lot of opportunities. As Ludovic was mentioning, core competencies in IT, developers, multimedia, health company, health IT, as Ludovic was mentioning, is really big. And sometimes another area we're not necessarily always thinking of, but really in food processing. Canada is extremely strong, and there's tremendous support right now from the government to truly make sure that we have enough processors, enough food processors to increase the level of autonomy that we have in terms of food for our population. So reducing the strain that we may have on importing. And so therefore there's tremendous support. So if there's any companies in that landscape in France that wish to come, it's a very good time to establish yourself as well. I would say mainly in Ontario and in Quebec would be the best places for those organizations.
Merci, Laurence. And of course, Canada is a multicultural country. I mean, you can live in French in Quebec, goes without saying. You can live also in French in Toronto, in some areas in Ontario where you can have your kids in school in French. You can, whether it's private school, public school, get healthcare and government services in French in certain areas. So, and that's just two languages. You have a very friendly place. It's like looks like the airport lobby sometimes, because you can really meet anybody from anywhere in Canada. And I conclude there. It's a very welcoming country, and we're here to help.
And don't hesitate to reach out to any one of us. We're there to support you and to help you navigate the landscape.
Thanks, everyone. So I guess we can close here, or if there's any other questions or anything, you know where to find us, so we can take a quick one. But all the best, and thank you for tuning in.
Thank you very much.
All right, and don't forget to join the other sessions that are coming in a few minutes. Bye-bye.